Tired. Welcome to another short newsflash podcast from PortugueseSoccer.com. My name is John Neves. Two topics to talk about here today. First, Ruben Amorim reportedly will be going to Sporting. Did Sporting beat Benfica to the punch on this one? And then, of course, the second topic we're going to talk about is, of course, the coronavirus and how it can impact Portugal. And, of course, we're talking about the Liga. To start off first, this is being recorded Tuesday morning. Last night, Record, Mais Football, among the news sources reporting that Sporting and Braga were in discussions for Ruben Amorim. Simply put, Sporting is willing to pay the 10 million release clause to purchase Ruben Amorim. They're just trying to make sure they can get it and pay it via the installments. There was even some reports that some players could be involved in the deal, mostly on loan. João Painha was one of the names that was being mentioned. And then Tuesday morning, now the reports say, Record jumping out on it, saying that it's a done deal, that apparently Sporting and Braga have agreed, and it's going to happen for 10 million. And this is interesting because, number one, it's happening on the day of a game with Sporting tonight playing at Familia Cone. Big match, Sporting, Braga, interesting. Sporting, Braga, as well as Rio Ave and Familia Cone, if they can get the 3 points tonight, are all battling for third place. And, of course, as a result, you have this terrific race where you do have the first two battling for the title, and now you got 3, 2, 6 battling for third place. And two of these three teams now are going to make a managerial change. And I think that part of the reason why this is happening is I think it's pretty fairly obvious, in my opinion. You might hear pundits on TV say otherwise, on the radio say otherwise, elsewhere in the wide world, in the internet or social media. But you got to wonder, and I think it is, that perhaps maybe Sporting was trying to beat Benfica to the signing. Benfica has dropped 8 points in the last 4 rounds of Liga play. That included, of course, losing to their direct rival Porto. And right now, Ruben Amorim is one of the stars. You know, usually you talk about players being the stars, but lately Ruben Amorim is basically the star. He has beaten the big three in his short tenure at Braga up north in Minho. He, of course, helped win, although he kind of arrived toward the end of the competition. But he did lead Braga to winning the League Cup. And the reality is he has shown so far, Europa disappointment aside, that he kind of knows what he's doing. He does not have a managerial license, which, by the way, wouldn't be a new thing for Sporting since Silas, when he was hired, didn't have a license. They'll have to have one of the assistants do the talking for him at press events and be the one to do the actual managing from the bench. Although, of course, we all know it's usually the manager that's directing the assistant coach to do things. But that is the story. And the story is that Braga, buyout's been triggered. Sporting are going to get him. Even though we are only in early March, they're making this move now. And the move is to beat Benfica. If one is to believe that Bruno Lage's job is in jeopardy. And slowly every week, the disgruntledness, the frustration with Benfica Nation continues to grow. So one would begin to think that that is probably a strong possibility. Varandas, Sporting has a lot of other sports that do very well, but ultimately when you are president of a club in Portugal, it is what you do with your senior football team or soccer team, whatever word you use in your part of the world. It is what you do with that team that ultimately defines your leadership role and how successful you are being. And it appears as if right now Varandas is strategically making a decision to jump to the head of the line because they know there are a lot of people that are going to be going after Ruben Amorim. And they have made a strategic decision to make it now. Even though all these stories are happening on the day of a match day, Sporting, if they win tonight, would only be 1 point behind again of Braga in the battle for third place, which gives you the direct Europa spot. But it's also about finishing in third place. Sporting wants to do that badly, and it appears as if Varandas is making that move. Now, based on what I've read so far on Twitter and people responding to some of the news reports that were posted last night, there are some people that are shocked. There are some people that think it's awful. Why spend that much on a manager instead of getting a top-line player? But I think at the end of the day, Varandas has made the decision that strategically he feels that now is the time to go after one of the growing talents of managers that's in Portugal. And this is the time to do it, because if he were to, let's say, get an opportunity to go abroad, look, it's no truth, probably going to make more money, probably going to be in a much more competitive league where people complain less about conspiracies. Very few managers leave Portugal and come right back right away. Many of them move on. And so far as we've seen, Paulo Fonseca, Pedro Martins, Abel, Jorge Jesus, making good money, doing very well. And Ruben might have been in that position to go to another big club in Europe, which probably, if he had success, would get him to an even bigger club in Europe. And, you know, Sporting decided now is the time to go after him, and they'll work it out. So, again, Tuesday morning, as of this short newsflash podcast being recorded, reports have that Sporting for 10 million will basically be getting Ruben Amorim, and that Custodio will take over as manager of Braga. So the third place team in the Liga, Braga, and right now the fourth place team, Sporting, are essentially about to pull off a major deal here in early March. Again, stay tuned to PortugueseSoccer.com, as well as the Twitter feed, psoccer.com, as well as Facebook for all the latest news, and also give us a follow on Instagram. The other big news that it's about life. Don't mean to sound so cliche. In football, in soccer, you lose a match, you come back 3 or 4 days later or the following weekend to play. But when you get sick, and based on the fatality rate of the coronavirus, they talk about how 1 out of 6 people could die, and that is this dreaded sickness, which is already affecting heavily parts of Asia and has already affected Italy. This morning in the Portuguese news, there was already a report of a doctor in Portugal who had been in Italy that has contracted it, and he's being quarantined to make sure they keep him away from people and to make sure that he fully does not have it. Again, this is what media is reporting, but apparently it has reached Portugal to the level now where it makes that news. And the Liga scheduling committee met yesterday, and they have basically said that playing matches behind closed doors is a possibility. Now, why would they do that? Well, if you got 50,000 people in the stadium, 20,000 people, 10, or even like the smaller clubs, 3, 4, 5,000, it's a lot of people to be in one place, and that only increases the likelihood that if there's somebody in the crowd who doesn't know they have it, or someone who does but doesn't believe they have it or choose to believe it and wants to go about their life, that perhaps maybe this thing, which does appear to be contagious, doesn't spread. And that's why you've seen some of the matches postponed in Serie A. And in Portugal, they have discussed it. They've also said that if they do postpone a match, they're not just going to postpone one match, that they're going to postpone the whole round of play for that week. And they do this out of competitive and fair balance, which is probably the smart thing to do. There's even talk that the internationals at the end of this month, Portugal is going to Qatar for a tournament. They even expressed concern over players, not just the Portuguese players that go play for the Seleção, but anybody who might be leaving Portugal this month to go play in any friendly, that probably is not worth it. And perhaps maybe there should be a reconsideration of letting those players go or even allowing those matches to be played. But of course, that is not a decision that is made by that committee. That is a decision made at a higher level. And will be interesting to see in the next week to 10 days whether or not the Seleção will be playing in Qatar. Not to say that I'm not trying to hint that that's going to be the case, but again, you just wonder naturally, like you wonder about anything going on in the world. We could be talking about, North America, where obviously, thankfully right now it has not been too bad. But if it gets worse, there was already an NBA memo going around about telling the players that if they do autographs in the NBA, to either bring your own pen or just don't do them anymore. And some players, particularly one player with Portland, has already said that he will be pausing and not offering autographs anymore. So a very serious discussion. Don't mean to put a somber note on it because, the whole Ruben Amorim thing, what's good about it is that people are talking about the game tonight. People are talking about a managerial change. We're not talking about conspiracy theories. And we don't have teams over the press fighting with each other. But we have that going for us tonight, that we just have some regular, what you would expect in football or soccer news going on. And then, of course, we have this other big story on the side. And I will pray, like everybody will, that things will get better, and that instead of hearing about it deteriorating, that it will get better and we can all go about our lives like we always have, and especially looking forward to Euro 2020 this summer. This has been a News Flash podcast, a quick one from PortugueseSoccer.com. Ciao, everybody.